Speaking at this session are Perumal Murugan, Kannan Sundaram, and N. Kalyan Raman. And the session is moderated by Anita Nair.
Good morning, everybody. I'm extremely privileged to be sitting here on this dais with three amazing people, the writer, the translator, and the publisher of Poonachi, this novel that came out last year, and a novel that I think has crept into the minds of every reader who has read it and occupied an unassailable place in many ways. Because it isn't in this time when we have this time and age when we have so much literature that is about many things. For the first time or in a long time, here is a novel that uses a baby goat, a little black baby goat called Poonachi, as its protagonist. And it's through her eyes and through her feelings that we start evaluating the world around us. For the first time, you see the world for what it is through the eyes of a baby goat who then goes on to become this nanny goat, etc. And finally, there is that absolutely what I would say kick-ass ending, for which I would urge you to pick up the book and read it. But we'd start off this morning's discussion by asking Mr. Perumal Murugan, the writer of this wonderful book, about what led him towards writing Poonachi.
அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். பூனாச்சி இந்த நாவலை நான் எழுதுறதுக்கான காரணம் அப்படின்னு சொன்னால், ஒரு வகையில் இது எழுதி பழகிறதுக்கான ஒரு பயிற்சியாக தான் இதை எழுத ஆரம்பிச்சுன்னு தான் சொல்லணும். ஏன்னா 2015 மாதுருபாகன்கிற அந்த நாவல் சம்பந்தமான பிரச்சனை வந்ததுக்கப்புறம் கிட்டத்தட்ட ஒரு 1.5 வருஷம் நான் எழுதாமல் இருந்தேன். மெட்ராஸ் ஹைகோர்ட்டுடைய தீர்ப்பு வந்ததுக்கப்புறம் எழுதுறேன்னு அனௌன்ஸ் பண்ணிட்டு அதுக்கப்புறம் ஒரு 6 மாதம் கழித்து நான் திரும்ப ப்ரோஸில் எழுதலாம் அப்படின்னு யோசித்த போது எனக்கு மனசில் ரொம்ப ஒரு மாதிரி ஒரு பிளாங்காக தான் இருந்துச்சு.
Good morning, everybody. The reason why I chose to write Poonachi, you could say that it was a way of getting back into writing. I mean, as a way of exercising my writing muscles after a period of idleness, after a hiatus, might say. In 2015, after the controversy that arose after over certain issues with Madharubagan and the English translation, one part Woman, I had gone away from writing, and once the High Court judgment came, which opened the path for me to write again. After about 6 months, I started. I was kind of faced with a blankness when I attempted to write, and then Poonachi happened.
அப்போ பூனாச்சியை அப்போ என்ன எழுதுறதுன்னு எனக்கு எந்த ஐடியாவும் இல்லை. சரி என்ன எழுதலாம் அப்படின்னு யோசித்தபோது அதுக்கு முன்னாடி இப்போ நான் எழுத திட்டமிட்டிருந்த எதுவுமே மனசுக்கு வரல. சரி சும்மா ஒரு வெள்ளாடு பற்றி ஒரு சின்ன சிறுகதையாக எழுதி பார்ப்போம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு தொடங்கினது தான்.
You know, when I first wanted to resume writing, I had no idea what I would write about. And the works that I had planned to write before this hiatus, they never came back to me, you know, in the sense that I wasn't able to work on them. And so I thought that I would write this short story about a goat. That's how I began.
அப்படி தொடங்கினது இந்த அளவுக்கு ஒரு சின்ன நாவல் அளவுக்கு எழுத வந்துக்கிட்டே இருந்துச்சு. அப்படி உருவானது தான் பூனாச்சி. நானே எதிர்பார்க்காத வகையில் இது வந்து ஒரு நாவல் வடிவம் பெற்றது அப்படின்னு தான் சொல்லணும். அப்படி ரொம்ப சாதாரணமாக எழுத ஆரம்பித்த ஒன்று இவ்வளவு முக்கியமான ஒரு நாவலாக மாறும்னு நான் எதிர்பார்க்கல. அது ரொம்ப சந்தோஷம்.
Yeah. As I began writing that short story about a goat, it grew and became a novel. So it took the shape. What was just a plain ordinary exercise in writing a story took the shape of a novel, and I'm very glad that that novel has grown into an important work. It being considered an important work by readers across the country, and it makes me happy.
Mr. Kannan Sundaram is the publisher. And Mr. Kannan, I mean, how did you react when, you know, he sent you the novel to, what did you think of? I mean, because he had this raging controversy, death threats and everything. And then thereafter comes this beautiful, gentle novel. At the same time, there's a lot of rage inside it. So what did you think of? How did you react when this book came to you?
Okay, good morning. So when I received the manuscript, so Murugan had told me he has written the story of a goat. And I began writing the novel as a story of a goat. It is, of course, a story of goat and goats, a beautiful story. But also that I could immediately see a political response, a creative political response to what is happening now in India and in many parts of the world. Also to what happened in his mind during the phase of the controversy. There was a creative response to all that in the novel. And I saw that. And I could see echoes of another favorite novel of mine, another political novel like Animal Farm, and a few other novels. And I thought that this could be the novel that might break several glass ceilings for Tamil writing. And so I decided to pick this novel and try making it travel to several languages.
Yeah, and I think you did a spectacular job of letting it travel beyond India. And this is one of those books that has been, auctioned, had a huge auction internationally. And so I think it's going to find readers everywhere, not just in India. I guess, as a book that is originally written in Tamil, and then when it is being read in English, I read somewhere a phrase, a silken translation of Mr. Kalyan Raman of this thing. And so I'd like to talk to you a bit more about, what you thought about first when the book came to you for translation, or did you choose the book to translate?
Yeah, my involvement with Poonachi began when Kannan was, taking the initiative to hold an auction for his translation rights within India, with the publishers in India. So he asked me to translate 2 chapters from the novel. and which was sent around to the publishers. And they bid on that basis. And so when Westland won the bid and they were going to publish the English translation, well, they approached me to, they probably liked the 2 chapters. And so they approached me, and I said I agreed to do it because I liked the novel. And the second thing is that I also thought that it was very important that this novel come out as soon as everybody could manage. And therefore, I had no, I had no hesitation in saying yes. And in fact, Poonachi is probably the fastest I've ever done a book in 3 months from start to finish. So
That's quite amazing, really. I'd like to go back to Mr. Murugan and ask him about this question. I think at every panel we should ask the writer, why do you write?
இந்த கேள்விக்கு பதில் சொல்கிறதுங்கிறது ரொம்ப கஷ்டமான ஒரு காரியம்தான். அது எழுதுவதுங்கிறது அது ஒரு தமிழில் வந்து கருவிலே திரு அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. அது எந்த அளவுக்கு உண்மைன்னு தெரியல. ஆனால் எழுதுவதுங்கிறது எனக்கு ஒரு இயல்பான ஒரு விஷயமாக சின்ன வயசுலேயே இருந்துச்சு. எனக்கு எது சுலபமாக வருதோ அந்த துறையில் நான் போகணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு ரொம்ப சின்ன வயசுலேயே நான் தீர்மானித்தேன். அந்த அடிப்படையில் தான் நான் வந்து இலக்கியம் படிக்கிறதுக்கு கூட நான் வந்தேன். அதனால் அது ஏதோ ஒரு விதத்தில் என்னை வெளிப்படுத்தி கொள்வதற்கு எழுத்து வழியாக இருந்திருக்குதுங்கிறத நான் கண்டுபிடிச்சங்கிறது தான் எனக்கு பெரிய விஷயமா இருக்குது.
The question, why do you write, is always a difficult question to answer. In Tamil they say that karuvile thiru, which means that even when you're in the womb, something is inherent in you, I think. Yeah, but obviously that's not something that you can say and get away with. So what I would say is that I've always liked literature, and which is why I chose to study literature. And it is through the process of writing I can say that I discovered that it's a wonderful way to express yourself. So this is what I discovered after having written so much.
So, when I was researching Mr. Murugan, I read somewhere that he had said that if he wasn't a writer, what he would really like to have done is be a farmer. And I was thinking about it, and so my question is actually pitched on that point. Do you see a similarity between the nurturing process that a writer does when creating a work with the life of a farmer who's actually nurturing the land to create crops? And the challenges, the pitfalls, the heartbreak, the triumph, I think in many ways is pretty much the same that you go through. So I'd like him to talk a little bit more about that.
நீங்கள் வந்து ஏன் எழுத ஆரம்பிச்சிங்க அப்படின்னு கேட்டால் அதுதான். அதில் வந்து என்னெல்லாம் வந்து தடைகள், ஏமாற்றங்கள், நிராசைகள், அதெல்லாம் சவால்கள் ரெண்டுமே விவசாயத்துலேயும் சரி படைப்பிறதுலையும் சரி அதில் இருக்கிற ரெண்டும் ஒரு மாதிரியான.
நான் அடிப்படையில் விவசாயம் செய்யக்கூடிய குடும்பத்தில் பிறந்து வந்தவன். அதனால் இப்போவும் கூட என் மனசில் வந்து நான் கிட்டத்தட்ட ஒரு 25 வருஷமாக நான் ஒரு காலேஜில் ப்ரொஃபஸராக இருக்கேன். ஆனாலும் கூட மனசளவில் நான் வந்து ஒரு விவசாயியாக தான் நான் என்னைய நினச்சிக்கிறேன். அந்த மாதிரியான ஒரு மனோபாவம் தான் என்கிட்ட இருக்குது. விவசாயங்கிறது வந்து ஒரு படைப்பு ஊக்கம் சார்ந்த ஒரு விஷயம்னு தான் நினைக்கிறேன். விவசாயங்கிறதே ஒரு படைப்பு மனோபாவம் இல்லைன்னா அது வர முடியாது.
I come from a family of farmers, And even after, I've been a teacher in a college for about 25 years now, but still my basic orientation is to life is that of a farmer. And I believe that that farming is very akin to creative writing, because unless you have a creative bent, you can't do farming. That's what I found. So what was inherent in me as a farmer or somebody whose inheritance was agriculture, it was easy for me to take up creative writing because it required the same qualities of the spirit.
அது நிலத்தை பண்படுத்துறதுலேருந்து விதைப்பு ஒவ்வொரு கட்டமுமே அறுவடை வரைக்கும் பார்த்திங்கன்னா ஒவ்வொன்றுமே வந்து ஒரு கிரியேட்டிவ் ப்ராசஸ்ன்னு தான் நினைக்கிறேன் நான். அதே போல் விவசாயத்தோடு சம்மந்தப்பட்ட ஆடு மாடுகள் வளர்ப்பு அப்படிங்கிறதும் கூட உயிர்களை வந்து காப்பது, உயிர்களை உருவாக்குவது அப்படிங்கிறதுலேருந்து வரக்கூடிய ஒரு விஷயம்தான். அந்த அடிப்படை அம்சம் வந்து எனக்கு, நான் வந்து ஒரு எழுத படிக்க தெரிஞ்ச ஒரு விவசாயியாக இருந்ததுனாலே என்னவோ தெரில, அந்த விவசாயத்தில் இருக்கக்கூடிய தன்மை என்னுடைய எழுத்தில் வந்துடுச்சு. எழுதுறதுக்கான அடிப்படை கூட அப்படி தான் எனக்கு தோணுது.
All that is involved in farming, right from preparing the soil, sowing the seed, and then watering it and nurturing it and then harvesting it. All these processes are the same that are involved in creative writing, and essentially it's about creating a new life, creating something that is alive. Whether it's a crop or a creative work, and in fact. This is the basis for my writing. I mean, the disorientation of the ability to create a new life. That is the basis for my creative writing.
Yeah, I think that is something that, if you haven't read Perumal Murugan yet, you must, because what you see is this very fine sense of a connection with the land and the details. In fact, I was just talking to them earlier, and I was saying that one of the books, all his books are wonderful, but there's one terrific book which hasn't, I think, been talked about too much in India, which is Seasons of the Palm, and which is pretty much the story of a young boy who's a goat, a sheep, he's a goat herd, or not a goat herd, a shepherd, and what he goes through. And there is so much. It's a story of a young boy, but it's also the story of caste politics. It's a story of oppression. It's the story of poverty like you've never seen, and so on. So in pretty much in this book as well, in Poonachi, there is the story is built around, for those of you who haven't read it, of this little goat who's a kid who's given away to an elderly couple, and they bring up the goat, and she is this wonderful creature, and there are many instances where you start seeing the world through her eyes, and then there's this massive drought which happens, and how it changes everything. Eventually, all that gentleness that existed between the elderly couple and the goat changes. So I think for you to get a flavor of the writing, it would be wonderful if Mr. Murugan and then Mr. Kalyan Raman read.
Before we start writing, I just would like to add something to what Anita says. In Murugan's, normally we urban dwellers, we don't have any connection with nature. We live mostly inside our heads, and what preoccupies us is what we do to one another. Okay, the kind of hassles we have, our relationships, and so on. But the people and animals who inhabit Perumal Murugan's world, they are more directly in contact with the elements, and the elements always affect them. They affect their lives in a if the sun is hot, we'll probably go into an air-conditioned room. or something like that, or will seek shelter. But if the sun is hot and it can parch the grass, and there will be no grass for the goat to eat, or it will dry up the tanks, so, and this affects these people. So their lives are very intertwined very closely with the elements and with the landscape. Whether a terrain is hard to traverse, that matters to them. So this is a quality that you will find in Perumal Murugan, this thing, that his stories are woven not just out of people and alive things like animals, but they are woven out of the elements of nature as well.
I mean, I would add to it and say that you can even smell the dust as you're reading it, It's the most amazing piece of writing I have. In fact, Poonachi is one of the, I thought was my top favorite book of 2018.
Now Perumal Murugan will read a couple of paragraphs from Poonachi in Tamil, and I will read it in English, the same passage in English.
வனமும் மரங்களும் அவளுக்கு பேராச்சரியமாயிருந்தன. அங்கே அவள் முயல்களை பார்த்தாள், எலிகளை பார்த்தாள், தன்னை கண்டு பயந்தோடும் பாம்புகளை பார்த்தாள். பயமாக இருந்தாலும் ஆர்வமாக இருந்தது. ஏதோ தன் சொந்த வீட்டுக்கு வந்து சேர்ந்தது போல உணர்ந்தாள். சில மரங்களில் போய் தன் உடலை உரசினாள். உடலுக்கு மிகவும் இதமாக இருந்தது. மரங்களுக்கு இடையே மெல்ல இருள் பரவிய போதுதான் ரொம்ப தூரம் வந்துவிட்டோமோ என்று நினைத்தாள். உடனே வேகமாக இறங்கினாள். ஆனால் வந்த தடத்தை தவறவிட்டிருந்தாள். பல பக்கம் ஓடோடி பார்த்தும் சரியான தடத்தை கண்டுபிடிக்க முடியவில்லை. இடைவிடாமல் கத்தி பார்த்தாள். கிழவியின் பதில் குரல் கேட்கும் என நினைத்தாள். ஏதேதோ பறவைகள் கத்தும் சத்தம்தான் கேட்டது. கொஞ்ச நேரத்தில் வாயடங்கினாள். பூனாச்சி தன் புத்திசாலித்தனத்தை அன்றைக்கு அறிந்தாள். இருட்டடைத்து எல்லா வழிகளும் மூடுண்டன. வேறு வழியில்லாமல் மலைமேல் தங்க நேர்ந்தது. எங்கே இருப்பது? இருளுக்குள் தனியாக படுத்திருக்க முடியுமா என்றெல்லாம் பயம் தோன்றியது. அப்போது பக்கத்தில் பெரும் பொய்கை ஒன்றை கண்டாள். அதில் நீர்க்கொடிகள் படர்ந்து மூடியிருந்தன. ஒரு பக்கம் போய் வயிறு முட்ட நீர் குடித்தாள். அத்தனை சுவையுடைய நீரை அவள் இதுவரைக்கும் குடித்ததே இல்லை. உள்ளே இறங்கி நீச்சல் போட்டு வரவும் அவளுக்கு ஆசை தோன்றியது. நீர் அசையாமல் கொடிகள் மூடி
The forest and the trees seemed miraculous to Poonachi. She saw hare, field rats, and snakes that ran away petrified on seeing her. Though afraid, she was also avid. It was a strange feeling, as though she had arrived in a real home. She walked up to a few trees and rubbed her body against a trunk. Only when darkness began to spread slowly among the trees did she wonder if she had walked too far. At once she began to climb down. But she had lost sight of the track she had made on the way up. In spite of running in several directions and looking all over, she could not find the right way back. She tried crying aloud. She thought she would hear the old woman's voice raised in answer to her call. But all she heard was the chatter of unfamiliar birds. After a brief while, she fell silent. Poonachi understood the extent of her intelligence on that day. Darkness fell and all the routes were closed. Left with no other option, she had to spend the night on the hill. Where could she stay? Could she lie down alone, surrounded by the darkness? She was scared. Just then, she saw a big pond close by. Water hyacinth covered its whole expanse. She had never before drunk water that tasted so sweet. She wanted to get into the water and swim for a while, but the hyacinth covering the still water made her afraid. She suppressed her wish. Like a hand extending from the edge of the pond, she saw a rock protruding over the water. Wide at the bottom, it became progressively narrow and ended in a sharp point at the top. It looked like the right spot for her. Planting her hooves on the rock, she climbed to the top. No one could get up there. It gave her a sense of security.
In Poonachi, there is this, there are no names taken. It's the old man, the old woman, the daughter, etc., the giant. And it's only, I think, Poonachi and then the goats who have names in it. One of the interesting things is about how they need to register the birth of every animal. And I would think it's a kind of pot shot, a subtle pot shot at the bureaucracy, and a subtle pot shot, not so subtle pot shot at the political system that is part of this country today. So, Mr. Murugan, do you see yourself as a political writer or a chronicler of political happenings in our country?
நான் ஒருபோதும் நேரடியாக அரசியலை பற்றி எழுதக்கூடியவன் அல்ல. அரசியலையும் நான் இலக்கியம் கொண்டு பார்க்கக்கூடியவன் தான் நான். அதனால் தனியான அரசியல் கட்டுரைகள் அப்படின்னு சொல்லியோ அல்லது அரசியல் சார்ந்த படைப்புகள் அப்படின்னு சொல்லியோ நான் எதுவுமே எழுதுனது கிடையாது. ஆனால் எந்த ஒரு விஷயத்தையும் பார்க்கும்போது அதில் அரசியல் வராமல் இருக்காது. ஆனால் நான் இலக்கிய கண் கொண்டு அரசியலை பார்ப்பது தான் என்னுடைய பார்வை.
Okay. I'm not a writer who writes overtly about politics. I look even at politics through literature, through a literary lens, as it were. So there is a lot of, I don't write, essays dealing with political issues or creative works that are directly political. But nothing is free of politics, and therefore, when I write as a writer of literature, politics is always embedded in it, just like it's embedded in everything we do. Thanks.
This question is for you, Kannan. It's basically that, I've always, when I've spoken to publishers and editors, they tell me that this book took us by surprise. We didn't expect it to have this sort of a response from readers or from the literary establishment. Did Poonachi take you by surprise, or did you think that this was the trajectory this book was going to take anyway?
Okay, so the response to a work I have seen, it sort of differs from the language where it is written and how the world outside that language perceives it. So if you want to know the response of readers, for all the books of Murugan I have published, the best response he got was for Mathur Bhagan when it was published in 2010. And at Chennai Book Fair, I could see that there was a buzz around the novel. And it was also the novel, I could see that more women readers came and bought and read. And they had no complaints about the novel. So for 4 years, they had no complaints. And so that is the way. But when I saw Poonachi, I could see that, of course, it's going to be received well in Tamil. But more than Tamil, I could see that this is a novel that had an international perspective. It was not just talking about any particular situation, though it's talking about, obviously, about the Tamil landscape. But it's also a novel that could be relevant in India, it could be relevant in the US and several parts of the world. That is why I decided that this should be the novel. Of course, there is this attention he got from all the media attention from throughout the world he got around the controversy was very important. You can't negate that. But even beyond that, I could see that this is a novel that could travel. And so even as I was planning an auction, I have a little bit of exposure with international publishing because I have been going to Frankfurt Book Fair from 2007. But even though I had that, I had consulted many of my friends in India, my good friends who helped me on what I do. And even before I could auction, I also connected with the agent in New York. And luckily she is here, Priya Doraswamy of Lotus Lit. And we discussed the novel, and so we decided to auction it only in India, and then probably she will pitch the novel in the US, which she very successfully did. And I'm happy to say this is probably the first two novels, Madhurban and Poonachi, the first novels that have been placed from Tamil and published by a major press in the US, Grove Atlantic. So thank you, Priya. So that is the thing. So I thought Poonachi is a novel that would work much better outside Tamil and than in Tamil Nadu. I think probably I was right. It's a novel that is selling very well in Tamil, but is doing much, much better outside Tamil.
So does that surprise you? That
No, it didn't surprise me.
by now you are familiar with how
I'm a
readers
publisher.
are.
I'm a publisher since 1995.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I can't say that I'm never surprised. I think every year there is a book that you think would sell very well, but doesn't do that. And that is the book that, you're not very sure about that starts selling. So it's not that, you can ever know about a publishing world very thoroughly. But Poonachi, no, I was not very surprised. I thought it's a novel that will travel, and it is traveling. Now, very interesting, I'll just give you a small example of how it can work. In Frankfurt Book Fair, the English book was on our rack for display. And while I was not at my stand, somebody came and, browsed through all my books. And I also read parts of Poonachi. And so when I came back, my other stand friends told me that there is a Korean agent who wants to meet you. So we made an appointment, and then we met. And by the time he had, sort of skimmed through the book. And at the book fair, this has never happened to me in all the 11 years. He just banged on the book and said, I will sell this book this year. And within 2 months, he sold the book to Korea. So it was a book that anybody could read and see that this is a book that could work internationally, and it is working internationally.
It might be a good time to say that Poonachi has already been translated into Malayalam, Telugu and Kannada, and it's on its way to being translated in other Indian languages as well, like Bangla and Marathi, I know. Oriya, yeah, Gujarati.
So it's going to be translated into 8 Indian languages, and it will be published probably in even more languages. I think we also have sold rights to Manipuri, Assamese, so it's really traveling.
I think one of the most noteworthy things about Poonachi is that it's universal, but at the same time it's local. So sometimes what happens is, you have a book that's very universal, but then you say it could be set anywhere, but you don't get a flavor of the landscape, you don't get a flavor of the customs and so on. I'm not saying that this is like, imbued with detail after detail, but at the same time, you get a fine sense of flavor of the landscape that the story has emerged from. And I have multiple questions in my head, but I think we should actually, open out the session to the audience, because those of you who have questions should also be allowed or should have an opportunity to interact with Mr. Perumal Murugan, Mr. Kalyan Raman, the translator, and Mr. Kannan Sundaram, the publisher. So, questions? There.
Hello, Mr. Murugan. My question is to you. You had said that Perumal Murugan, the writer, is dead. So what made you resurrect the writer, and what has changed in between?
அது நான் அதை பற்றி நிறைய ஏற்கனவே சொல்லியிருக்கேன். மெட்ராஸ் ஹைகோர்ட்டுடைய ஜட்ஜ்மெண்ட் வந்து ரொம்ப ரொம்ப பிரமாதமான ஒரு ஜட்ஜ்மெண்ட். அது என்னுடைய புத்தகம் சார்ந்து அப்படின்னு மட்டும் இல்லை, அது இந்திய அளவில் உலக அளவுலேயே ரொம்ப முக்கியமான ஒரு ஜட்ஜ்மெண்ட்டுன்னு நினைக்கிறேன் நான் அது. அதில் வந்து எழுத்தாளருக்கு ஆர்டர் போடுற மாதிரி கடைசி வாக்கியம் வந்து ரைட் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு முடியும். அதுதான் என்னை திரும்ப எழுதுறதுக்கு தூண்டின ஒரு விஷயம்.
I've answered this question several times. I think what did it for me was the Madras High Court judgment on the writ petition seeking a ban on Madhurupagan. Now that judgment is actually is not about the book alone, not about my book alone. It's about all books, and it can be applicable all over the world. It's a wonderful landmark judgment, and the judgment ended with what seemed like an exhortation to writers that if you're a writer, please write. So I took it to heart and I began. So that.
I have just one question. I'm sorry to interrupt. After One Part Woman, all the controversy and everything, did you ever regret writing the book?
இல்லை, நான் வருத்தம்னா என்ன, எழுதுனதுக்காக நான் வருத்தப்படலை. ஒரு எழுத்தை வந்து எப்படி வாசிக்கிறது, எப்படி புரிஞ்சுக்கிறதுங்கிற ஒரு பார்வை நம்ம சமூகத்தில் இல்லையே அப்படிங்கிறதுக்காக ரொம்ப வருத்தப்பட்டேன்.
Okay, I didn't regret writing the book as such, but I felt sad that our society still doesn't have the savvy or the correct attitude of how to read a book and how to understand it and how to respond to it or how to engage with it. So this is what made me sad. This was the matter of regret for me.
Murugan sir, I want to ask, what made you to choose a goat to be your protagonist and not some other animal, or it just happened to be a goat?
I think you should read from the forward.
This is Murugan has explained it in his foreword to the book. I will read. I'll read the passage. How long can an untold story rest in deep slumber within the dormant seed? I am fearful of writing about humans, even more fearful of writing about gods. I can write about demons, perhaps. I'm even used to a bit of the demonic life. I could make it an accompaniment here. Yet, yes, let me write about animals. There are only 5 species of animals with which I am deeply familiar. Of them, dogs and cats are meant for poetry. It's forbidden to write about cows and pigs. This leaves only goats and sheep. Goats are problem-free, harmless, and above all, energetic. A story needs narrative pace. Therefore, I've chosen to write about goats.
Namaste. Mr. Murugan, உங்களுக்கு இந்த question. Can you explain a little bit about the process of writing? நீங்கள் எப்படி உங்களோட எவ்ரிடே லைஃப்பில் எந்த மாதிரி ஸ்ட்ரக்சர் கொண்டு வரீங்க, எப்படி நீங்கள் ரைட்டிங் how do you make it progress?
நான் தினமும் ரெகுலராக எழுதுவேன்னு சொல்ல முடியாது. ஆனால் வந்து ஒரு வகையில் மனசுக்குள்ளே ஏதாவது எழுத்து ஓடிக்கிட்டு தான் இருக்கும். ஏதாவது ஒரு விஷயம் வந்து மனசுக்குள்ளே அது ஒரு ஃபார்ம் ஆகிட்டே இருக்கும். எழுதுறதுக்குன்னு எனக்கு கொஞ்சம் வந்து ஒரு அமைதியான சூழலும் ஒரு தொந்தரவு இல்லாத இடமும் எனக்கு ரொம்ப அவசியம். நான் என்னுடைய முதல் நாவலே அப்படி தான் எழுதினேன். நான் அப்போ வந்து காலேஜில் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்டாக இருந்தபோது எழுதினேன். ஒரு வெக்கேஷனில் நானும் எங்கள் அம்மாவும் மட்டும் எங்கள் விவசாய நிலத்துக்குள்ளே இருந்த ஒரு வீட்டில் இருந்தோம். அப்போ எனக்கு அந்த வருஷம் எனக்கு எந்த வேலையும் அம்மா வைக்க வேண்டாம்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஒரு 1.5 மாதம் எழுதுறது, மற்றபடி சாப்பிட்றது, தூங்குறது இதுதான். அப்படி வந்து எனக்கு சூழல் வாச்சுதுன்னா எழுதிடுவேன். அதுக்கு முன்னாடி ஆனால் மனசில் ஒரு ஃபார்ம் ஆகிருக்கணும். அப்படி தான் எழுத முடியும் எனக்கு.
The question was about, can you say something about the process of writing? How do you write? So, Murugan says that I don't write every day, but all the same, something keeps going on in my head, and the bits of writing keeps forming itself in my head, and only when I need a space without any disturbance. I need a chunk of time. Only then can I write. And this is how I wrote even my first novel, which is translated as Seasons of the Palm. Eruvayil, okay, Eruvayil, which is not translated yet. Eruvayil, and I was a student then in college, and during my summer vacation, I had to stay with my mother in a house in the middle of our field. And I told my mother that, I won't do anything except eat, sleep, and write. And I wrote that novel in about a month and a half. So essentially, I write when I get the space and the time that is conducive to writing. But like most writers, writing goes on all the time inside me. Yeah, thanks.
Hi. So you talked about how the book was being translated into different languages, from Tamil to English and then Malayalam. So do you think that the original essence and emotion of the book would be lost while translating the book?
இல்லை, எழுத்து ப்ராசஸ்லேயே இப்போ நான் வந்து ஒரு விஷயத்தை இப்போ பூனாச்சி பற்றி எழுதுறதுக்கு என் மனசில் திட்டமிட்டிருக்கிறதுல ஒரு 50% 60% தான் எழுதும்போது வரும். அதனால் பெரும்பாலும் இப்போ நான் எழுதும்போதே எனக்கு வந்து நினச்சிருந்த நிறைய விஷயங்கள் விடுபட்டு போச்சு அப்படிங்கிற அந்த உணர்வு இருக்கும். டிரான்ஸ்லேஷனும் அந்த மாதிரி தான் நினைக்கிறேன். டிரான்ஸ்லேஷனில் பெரும்பாலும் எல்லோரும் டிரான்ஸ்லேஷன் சம்மந்தமாக பேசும்போது ஒரு மொழியிலிருந்து வரும்போது அதில் ஏற்பட்ட இழப்புகள் அப்படிங்கிறத பற்றி மட்டுமே பேசுகிறாங்க. இன்னொன்றும் உண்டுன்னு நினைக்கிறேன் நான். அதில் வந்து ஒரு படைப்பை டிரான்ஸ்லேஷன் வந்து இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் மேலே ஒசத்தி கொண்டு போகிறதுக்கான வாய்ப்பும் டிரான்ஸ்லேஷனில் இருக்குதுன்னு தான் நினைக்கிறேன். ஏன்னா டிரான்ஸ்லேட்டரையும் அவங்களையும் வந்து ஆல்சோ அவங்களையும் கிரியேட்டராக தான் இன்றைக்கி இருக்கக்கூடிய வேர்ல்டு வந்து கன்சிடர் பண்ணுதுன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். அதனால் இழப்பு மட்டும் இல்லை, சிலது இழக்கலாம், அது ஒன்று இப்போ இருக்குன்னு தான் செய்யும், நான் இல்லைன்னு சொல்லலை. அதே சமயம் ஒரிஜினலை விட இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் சில இடங்கள் ரொம்ப நல்லா வந்திருக்கிறதுக்கான ஒரு சான்சஸும் அதில் இருக்குதுன்னு தோணும்.
Yeah, when I start writing about Poonachi, I have many things in my mind, and only about I am able to. The final product contains only 50 or 60% of those ideas. Many things are left out for whatever reason. So there is a kind of loss inherent in the act of writing the original itself. So obviously, translation also would involve that kind of loss. But there's another way to look at it, which is that translation can also enhance a particular work. It can remove the weaknesses in some way. It can cut out the fluff. It can make the sentences more elegant. No, he didn't say that. I'm just giving you illustration. So there is also this enhancement is also a possibility. I'll come to this in my reply. These days translators are also considered as creative people, and so we should not harp on loss, okay, in translation. Okay. So that is Murugan's response. My own, no, I haven't finished because, my own response is the following. When somebody reads, say, this English translation of Poonachi, what they're reading is really a literary text. Okay, and they should engage with it as a literary text, and if it works for them, because this is all they have, particularly if you don't know Tamil, then this is all you have. So there is a process of translation which takes the original and then it transports it into English and produces a literary text for you to read, right? So you can't use that process to diminish the work. So you really don't know, you're not in a position, as a reader, you're not in a position really, this is an existential thing. You're not in a position to know whether something is lost or gained or whatever. So you're sort of a priori assuming that something has been lost because Robert Frost said so. I would advise you not to do that. Just engage with it as a literary text. If it works for you, it is. And that is how literary texts in translation have always worked, whether it is Tolstoy or Dostoevsky or King James Bible or anything else. So this is the tradition of translation, to not have bad faith about translation. And this is what you should do as well. Thank you.
Good morning and thank you for a wonderful session. So my question is for Murugan sir. And in India, when we often talk about writers who are writing in English, there is seldom the creation of a category, as in we don't refer to them as English writers. But when we talk about writing in other Indian languages, we often use the umbrella term of regional writing. So what are your feelings about the usage of this term, and do you think that it creates an otherness of sorts? Thank you.
நான் இப்போ இதை ரீஜனல் லாங்குவேஜஸ் அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறது, ரீஜனல் லிட்ரேச்சர் அப்படின்னு சொல்லக்கூடிய அந்த வார்த்தையே எனக்கு அவ்வளோவா ஓப்பானதில்லை. நான் இந்தியாவில் இருக்கக்கூடிய எந்த லாங்குவேஜில் எழுதினாலும் அது இந்தியன் லிட்ரேச்சர்னு தான் நான் நினைக்கிறேன். அதே போல் இப்போ தமிழையோ கன்னடத்தையோ மலையாளத்தையோ ரீஜனல் லாங்குவேஜ்னு சொல்கிறதுல எனக்கு உடன்பாடு கிடையாது. அது ஒன் ஆஃப் த இந்தியன் லாங்குவேஜ்னு தான் சொல்லணும்னு நான் நினைக்கிறேன். இப்போ இதெல்லாமே ரீஜனல் லிட்ரேச்சர் அப்படின்னு சொன்னோம்னா அப்போ மெயின் ஸ்ட்ரீம் லிட்ரேச்சருங்கிறது இங்கிலீஷில் எழுதுறது மட்டும்தானா அப்படிங்கிற கேள்வி எனக்கு இருக்குது. அதனால் அந்த பார்வையில் பார்க்கும்போது இந்தியாவில் இருக்கக்கூடிய எந்த மொழியில் எழுதினாலும் அது இந்தியன் லிட்ரேச்சர் அப்படின்னு தான் நான் பார்க்குறேன். இன்றைக்கி கொஞ்சம் இந்தியன் லாங்குவேஜஸில் எழுதக்கூடிய எழுத்துக்கள் பிற மொழிகளுக்கு போகிறதுக்கும் இங்கிலீஷில் வர்றதுக்குமான வாய்ப்பு முந்தி இருக்கிறத விட இப்போ கொஞ்சம் கூடுதலாக இருக்குது. அது ஒரு பெரிய சந்தோஷமான ஒரு விஷயம். இப்போ இங்கேயே இப்போ இந்த ஜேசிபி அவார்டுலேயே பார்த்திங்கன்னா என்னுடைய நாவல் ஷார்ட்லிஸ்டில் டிரான்ஸ்லேஷன் இது அவார்டு வாங்கின பென்யாமினுடைய ஜாஸ்மின் டேஸும் அது மலையாளத்தில் எழுதப்பட்ட நாவல். இதெல்லாமே ஒரு பெரிய சந்தோஷம் கொடுக்கக்கூடிய விஷயமா இப்போ இருக்குது.
Let me just translate this thing. I don't particularly like the qualifier regional for literatures that are produced in languages like Tamil, Malayalam or Kannada or any other Indian language. I think that anything that is produced in an Indian language, it should be part of Indian literature and not dubbed as regional literature. And if it is, and there's a problem that if these are called regional literature, then what is mainstream literature? I mean, is it English? Obviously that's not a tenable, way to name it. So everything that is written about Indian life and in Indian languages is Indian literature. Now there is more than ever before, now there are chances for works produced in Indian languages to to be translated into other Indian languages as well as English and even European or languages of the world. So this being the case, it would make perfect sense to call everything as Indian literature rather than regional literature and create a hierarchy of sorts. Thanks.
Can I respond to that? Can I respond? So I just want to, a little bit more elaborate on what Murugan had said. And one more good news is that it is Jayan Kaikani's Kannada short stories in translation that has now won the DAC award as well. When it comes to defining languages, I think many of India's languages are not even Indian languages anymore. They have also become international languages. So I think that's very important to note that. For example, Bangla is spoken in India and also in Bangladesh. And Malayalam, I think there are some Malayalis still left in Kerala, but they are mostly moved on to many parts of the world, and it is quite an international language. And Tamil, as we know, is the official language in India, it's the official language in Singapore, it's the official language in Malaysia and Sri Lanka. And I think now it's also the official language in Toronto. So more than Indian language, more than probably many Indian languages, some Indian languages have also become international languages. So the term regional language, I think is completely obsolete and never should be used.
Is it okay? Yeah. Good morning. I'd like to read out a small sentence from your book, One Part Woman, and then my question. Even when you have spent years with some people, their real faces are revealed only when the right time comes. God knows how many faces lie concealed forever with no opportunity to reveal themselves. So, Mr. Murugan, what's that one thing in you which will continue to reveal more faces of what God has created for readers like me, and that one thing in you which will sort of interpret what God has hidden from us all this time and reveal it to us through your writings? What is that one thing in you that helps you to do that? Thank you.
இல்லை, இயற்கையில் எத்தனையோ விதமான ரகசியங்கள் இருக்குது. ரகசியம் அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறது நமக்கு தெரியாத வரைக்கும் தான் அது ரகசியமாக இருக்குது. கண்டுபிடிக்கிறதுக்கான ஒரு முயற்சி அப்படிங்கிறது தான் படைப்புன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். மனித வாழ்க்கையும் அந்த மாதிரியான ஒரு இயற்கையான ஒரு விஷயம்தான். அதில் இருக்கக்கூடிய சிக்கல்கள் பிரச்சனைகளை புரிஞ்சுக்க முயற்சி பண்ணுறது தான் ஒரு படைப்பினுடைய வேலைன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். அந்த நீங்கள் வாசித்த அந்த பகுதியில் கூட சில சந்தர்ப்பங்கள் உருவாகும்போது தான் சில முகங்கள் தெரிய வருது அப்படிங்கிறது தான் அதனுடைய இது. சில சந்தர்ப்பங்கள் உருவாகாமலே போனால் அந்த முகம் தெரியாமலே போயிடும் அப்படிங்கிறது தான். அப்போ அந்த மாதிரியான ஒரு சந்தர்ப்பத்தை உருவாக்குவதுங்கிறது படைப்பு.
Okay, there are many things in nature which are hidden and which remain secrets, but they are secrets only insofar as we are not aware of them. And the act of creative writing is an attempt to discover what is still unknown. And so this is what creative writing is. And in the passage that you read, I have said that there are these faces which remain hidden, reveal themselves only when the conditions are right, when there is the time and when there's a situation in which they can reveal themselves. So creative writing is a quest for the unknown, and under the right circumstances, it'll illuminate for everybody what has so far remained hidden. So that's, and in a certain sense, even the world of humans is part of nature. So the secrets about the human world can also be revealed through writing.
We have time for one last question. So,
Murugan sir, vanakkam. Even your first novel created a lot of controversy in Tamil Nadu itself. And how you see that your new novel has transformed from that, even though your society is not admitting you as a writer, they are criticizing your viewpoints. And how you see that nowadays society house is progress or something like that, comparing to your first novel?
I think he's meaning one part woman, not first novel.
Oh.
Your society changes happen from first novel to
first novel இப்போ ஏறுவெயில் சொல்றீங்களா?
yes, one part woman. Controversial.
இல்லை, ஒன் பார்ட் உமன் வந்து என்னுடைய ஃபஸ்ட் நாவல் அல்ல, அது வந்து என்னுடைய ஃபோர்த்து நாவல். அது என்னுடைய ஃபஸ்ட்டு நாவல் 1991 வந்தது. ஆனால் ஃபஸ்ட் நாவல்லையே கூட அதுலேயே சில கான்ட்ரவர்சிலாம் தமிழில் வந்துச்சு. நான் வந்து அது ஒரு விவாதமாக இருக்கக்கூடிய வரைக்கும் அந்த மாதிரியான கான்ட்ரவர்சியை வந்து நாம் ஒன்றும் தவறாக எடுத்துக்க வேண்டிய அவசியம் கிடையாது. ஒரு மாற்று பார்வைகள் வரும், கருத்து வரும், அதை விவாதிக்கிறதுல நமக்கு எந்த விதமான சிக்கலும் கிடையாது. நான் எப்போதும் யார் கூடவும் விவாதிக்கிறதுக்கு தயாராக தான் இருக்கேன். இது ஒன் பார்ட் உமனில் வந்து அந்த விவாதங்கிற முறையை தாண்டி போனது தான் பிரச்சனை. எனக்கு வந்து பேசுகிறதுக்கான ஒரு ஸ்பேஸே இல்லை. நான் பேசுகிறத வந்து கேட்கறதுக்கான காதுகளும் இல்லை. இப்போ அதுதான் பிரச்சனையாக இருந்துச்சு.
Okay. First, I would like to say that One Part Woman was not my first novel. My first novel was published in 1991, and One Part Woman came out. The Tamil original of One Part Woman came out in 2010. Even my first novel created a certain amount of buzz, and there were many opinions on it, both favorable and unfavorable. But it's always good to have a book being discussed and in order that people engage with it and raise questions about it and talk about it among themselves and also with the writer. So there is nothing wrong with it. It's fine. But in the case of One Part Woman, it went beyond this thing of civilized debate, beyond the limits of civilized debate. And I found that in that situation, I had no space in which to express myself or talk about what I felt. And there were no ears either. There were no people willing to listen to what I had to say. So that was my experience with One Part Woman. And obviously, we move on and we come to Poonachi.
Thank you, audience, and thank you, Mr. Perumal Murugan, Mr. Kalyan Sundaram, and Mr. Kalyan Raman, and Mr. Kannan Sundaram. Thank you very much for this wonderful morning and this wonderful session. I hope you are as delighted with this session as I am personally sitting here and hearing them speak.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Mr. Perumal Murugan.